Warning, the following podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is advised. If you are sensitive to any content or subject matter in films, I recommend looking up this film on doesthedogdie.com. It is a user-based database of extensive content warnings for pretty much every film you can think of. It basically gives you a heads up to all the potentially triggering topics a movie might have. Check it out and take care of yourself. Welcome back to We Creeps. I'm your host, Evan Exhumed. And just like before, every week I summarize and review a different horror film for people who are a little too squeamish or easily spooked to watch them, but still really enjoy the plot and often end up looking them up on Wikipedia or Googling the ending explained. We, of course, welcome horror movie fans all the same. I regret to inform you that I have tested positive for spookiness, and it is terminal. Speaking of which, today I will be covering the film Contracted, a 2013 drama horror thriller that was directed by Eric England and written by Eric England. It stars Nahara Townsend, Caroline Williams, Katie Stegman, Alice McDonald, Matt Mercer, not the cool one, and Simon Barrett. I think this movie was interesting. I saw it a long time ago. I can't believe it's 10 years old now. But there was kind of this phase in horror where STDs and horror were sort of mixing together. You have It Follows, Contracted 1 and 2, and I just really sort of like when horror movies play on a lot of the fears that have sort of been untouched by other films and media. And so just this like specific kind of niche genre of STD, STI related horror is just kind of cool. And this film is filled with a lot of body horror, and there is a scene of sexual assault in it in the very beginning. So just a heads up, you can look at doesthedogdie.com to get more information on it, or you can just go ahead and listen, but just wanted to give you that little bit of heads up here. Not a lot of trivia about this movie, but one cool thing was that it was shot in 15 days, and they did have some pretty big struggles casting the lead, mostly due to how graphic the content is and the subject matter, but they were able to find Nahara Townsend because she read the script and loved it. Even her agents told her not to get involved, but she was just like, fuck it. I like this script. I like this idea, and I'm going to go with it. And I agree with her. I think it's a really interesting film. Wasn't super well received, but who really gives a fuck what critics think? I mean, besides me, because technically I am a critic, so you should care about what I think, but forget all those other critics because they're just jerks and say a lot of mean things. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started on the 2013 horror film Contracted. The film starts with a bang, literally. There is a mortician or a coroner banging a corpse in a morgue, and you don't really see anything, but you just see the body shaking, and then it's zipped up, and he gets into his car, and then the beginning of the credits begin to start with introducing some of the actors, and we see some really cool orchids and stuff being worked on, which is a reference to the main character's job or special interest or whatever. The main character is Samantha, or Sam. She is going to her friend Alice's party. She heads to the party and mingles a little bit with some people. She runs into a guy named Riley, who I guess she knows, and he seems to be really, really into her. But it is revealed that Sam is a lesbian and has a girlfriend named Nikki, who did not come to the party with her, and she seems to be a little upset about that, but her friend Alice seems to be encouraging her to have a good time. Sam also runs into her former drug dealer, and he asks if she wants a bump of something or anything, and she says no, so we're given the information that she is trying to quit or stop doing as many drugs. However, per the encouragement of her friend Alice, Sam is given like 3 or 4 shots and starts to get a little toasty. While she is hanging out at the party, she calls her girlfriend Nikki and is wondering where she is. It's like 2 a.m. And while she's drunk, she is handed a drink from a stranger. The stranger is assumed to be the creepy dude who was banging the corpse earlier. And the drug, I'm afraid, is laced with something, and it does lead to him taking advantage and sexually assaulting her. After the assault, we finally get the title card, Contracted, and we then get another title card that says Day 1. So this is day 1 of her getting infected with whatever the fuck is about to go down. So she wakes up and gets up, and we find out that she lives with her mom. We also get a little peek at the orchids that she's taking care of. She has like a whole thing in her room in the closet. So she's doing this or trying to do this professionally to win some kind of competition. Seems like her mom and her have a bit of a little, some tension there. It doesn't seem like her mom is very cool with her being gay. Also, one of the symptoms that Samantha first has is a feeling of being really cold. So fast forward, we see her and Nikki having lunch. Nikki seems to be upset that Samantha drank and accuses her of being hungover, and that's the reason why she's super cold. However, it seems like they're doing okay now. I don't know. Nikki just seems like a shitty girlfriend and just really mean and short. So I'm not team Nikki. I like Samantha, she's fine, but Nikki is just kind of a dick. Later that evening, she's having dinner with her mom. They get into a bit of an argument. Her mom says some microaggressive, homophobic shit, and as she's leaving the dinner table, she has like severe stomach cramps. And then we jump to day 2 of this infection. Samantha wakes up and her underwear and her bed are completely soaked in blood. I mean, you might assume that this is a period or something, but this is kind of an extreme amount of blood, even for somebody who might have a heavier flow. So pretty concerning for Samantha. She also notices that there are very dark, kind of creeping spider-like veins coming from her genital area up to her stomach, so she's going to need to see a doctor. On Sam's way to work, she calls Alice to catch up, get a little chit-chat, and we, the audience, find out the person who assaulted her, this person named BJ is his name, is wanted by the police. They're trying to investigate something that went down. So Sam hangs up and then just heads to work where she is a waitress. She sits down to have a little salad, and all of a sudden the salad just tastes like shit, like it's rotting, which is not a great sign. It's like she's got some advanced COVID or something. While she's serving, we see Riley again, the guy who was all goo-goo eyes for Sam, and he's like, yeah, I know what I like, so, I'm coming back to your restaurant. And so Sam, very cleverly, switches her tables with her coworker and goes to help a few other women. While she's taking the order, she starts having like crazy migraines and tinnitus and, covering her ears. So she rushes to the bathroom, uses the restroom, and just more blood is just sort of gushing out of her into the toilet. And she thinks it's just really bad cramps, but she leaves the bathroom. And as she's going to help those women again, she falls over and clutches her stomach in extreme pain, and then finally goes to the doctor. The doctor checks her out, sees that her ears are starting to get infected, her heartbeat is unusually slow, and she shows him, what's going on down there. And she's got like some rashes going on, and he's like, have you been sexually active lately? And she lies and says, well, I'm a lesbian, which is true, but, he's like, well, have you had sex with any men anyway? So she tells him that she slept with someone a few nights ago, but other than that, she also reveals that she slept with another man 8 months ago. And so he's like, well, I'm not sure what it is, but, you should use some cream or something and just, because there's a lot of dryness down there and just we'll see what happens. Which is weird because I feel like maybe you should probably run some tests. But anyway, so Sam ends up going to visit her girlfriend, Nikki, who, when Nikki answers the door, she does not seem happy to see Sam. So I don't know why they're together, but Nikki just continues to suck. However, now it's Sam who's sucking because we learn that they've been together for 10 months. And earlier, we just learned that she had also slept with a guy 8 months ago. So it just seems like Sam kind of sucks, Nikki sucks. They both just suck together, so maybe they do deserve each other. But Nikki does not really want to be intimate because she still feels like it's too soon. But it seems like Samantha really wants to work this out. We also learned that Samantha and Nikki used to live together, and that's why Sam now lives with her mom. Sam heads back to work, and I guess Alice is one of her coworkers, and she sees Sam, and her left eye is just completely fucked and bloodshot, and this freaks everybody out. Samantha heads home and begins to apply some ointment to her vulva, and while she's doing this and picking up her underwear, a maggot falls out of her? No, thank you. At this point, I don't think any creams or throwing some Greek yogurt up there is really going to help our friend Samantha here. Oh, and while she's brushing her teeth now, her teeth start fucking falling out. So this is just a nightmare. During the night, she starts to puke a bunch, like bile coming out. And as she's puking, her mother becomes really accusatory, asking her if she's pregnant, sort of implying that she might be on drugs or something. We then move to the final day, day 3 of 3, as the little title card tells us, which is implying that this woman is going to die today. She wakes up, passed out on the toilet. There's blood all over the floor from her genitals. And she gets up, tries to clean it up, and takes a quick hot shower. However, she thinks the water is cold, and her mom comes in to check the water, and it's boiling hot. So she no longer is feeling in her skin. But she does take a shower, and clumps of her hair just start falling out. As she is about to leave to go to work, her mom notices that there's just giant clumps of hair missing from her head and accuses her of being on drugs again implying that she had some sort of drug history. Not noticing this, Samantha now sees in a mirror that her hair is just falling out in large clumps and sort of freaks out and screams at her mom. And she starts to drive to work and tries to call out, saying, like, I need to go to the doctor. This is an emergency. But her work makes her come in, which is a pretty realistic standard American experience, I gotta say. So she's at work prepping some salad, and her boss is like, hey, you can't wear those sunglasses because, her eyes are now super fucked up and completely red and like bleeding. And so he finally sees her eyes and is like, yeah, that's pretty bad. You should probably go to the doctor. That looks like pink eye. So before she's leaving, she starts to serve people these salads. And as she heads back to the back of the house, she notices that her nails are starting to fall off. And the nail that fell off was in one of the salads that she just gave to a patron. So that woman is very upset. And I sure hope she gets a comped meal. Samantha leaves shortly afterwards and runs into Riley, the guy who keeps simping for her and coming to her work all the time. And he tries to talk to her about the guy that sexually assaulted her, but she doesn't want to talk about it. She says, stop stalking me, leave me alone. And it appears that Riley knows that the guy who assaulted her is the one wanted by the police. She finally heads back to the doctor and she shows him just what's happening. And he's like, damn, this seems like a really fucked up STD or something that you have. And she's like, okay, well, can you give me anything for it? And he's like, well, we got to run a bunch of tests and we can't really give you anything if we don't know what it is. So just don't go near anyone and, we'll figure this out. It'll be fine, probably. So Sam ends up going back to her drug dealer's house to get some heroin. And I guess Alice ends up coming to see the drug dealer too because she wants drugs as well. And Sam ends up explaining to both her drug dealer and Alice what happened that night and that she was assaulted. Both of them say to go to the police. But if she does that, then Nikki is going to find out that she cheated on her again. And there seems to be some argument about how Samantha thinks that Alice is trying to break Samantha and Nikki up because Alice is into Sam. But obviously, Samantha is just really high and also really sick, so she's not thinking very clearly. So Nikki runs off. She goes to her work to get a little drink on, and then she checks the time and realizes that it's time for the Orchid Festival or something that she applied for earlier. And so she goes home and then is confronted by her mother and like a priest or something. And she is then accused by her mother and this priest of being on drugs again, which they're not wrong, but I think we're sort of past that as being the major concern for Samantha. And Samantha screams at her mother, takes off her glasses, and we can see that one of her eyes is now just completely white instead of just being red. And she's just looking more and more kinds of fucked up. So she grabs her orchid and then speeds off to this little contest or festival. So as she's signing in for the contest, they look her up and obviously she's looking very fucked up. And the receptionist pauses for a minute, looks at her ID, and it's just like, yeah, we're not going to be able to let you in. So this huge thing that she has been planning for months and months and months has now been completely ruined. Also, I guess if she had won, she would have won like $100,000 grant to continue propagating these specific orchids. So it's a pretty big loss for her. Completely distraught and heartbroken, she goes to her shitty girlfriend, Nikki. And apparently Alice has told Nikki everything. She revealed that she was sexually assaulted at a party, but Nikki still blames her and then calls her like a fake lesbian. And that she's like a little girl going through a phase. Nikki seems like the type of person who goes with the whole gold star lesbian thing, which is really problematic. That's another reason I don't like Nikki. And then Sam is like, well, is there somebody else? Like, are you cheating on me too? And Nikki fucking says, yeah, babe, there's always somebody else. And so that pisses off Samantha, and she attacks Nikki and ends up strangling her to death. I can't say I'm that upset about it. Probably not a good move on her part. It's going to complicate some things in the future, but, you know, fuck you, Nikki. You were just an awful character. So Samantha's pretty upset that she just murdered her girlfriend, and so naturally she goes to see Alice, who, you know, is basically in her eyes the reason that this happened. So they argue for a little bit, but Samantha's like, look, it's obvious that you want to bang me, you want to bone me, you want to wine and dine me, so just come and get it. And so Samantha, fully, totally rotting, zombie-looking motherfucker, starts to make out with Alice, and Alice is kind of into it. But Samantha pukes a little bit, and that causes Alice to get very upset. That causes Samantha to get upset, and so she ends up strangling her and then taking a bite out of her neck. As she's dying, Samantha grabs a blunt object and beats her to death with it. Then, in a moment of desperation, she picks up Alice's phone and calls the simp dude Riley, and she's like, hey, I'm just like having a really rough time, could you like come over to Alice's? And before Riley comes over, Samantha tries to get all dolled up, but I mean, she still looks like fucking ass. I mean, she just looks terrible. And so Riley comes over and he's just like, yeah, what's going on? You have rejected me 100 times now, and I don't really understand what's going on. And Samantha's just like, I just need someone who can take care of me. And so, of course, he succumbs to her advances, and they start making out, and they start to bang. And, of course, he starts to feel something inside of her, and it's the maggots rubbing on his pee-pee. So he pulls out, and we see a little colony of maggots just come straight out of there, and he is visibly upset, but this is also setting up the sequel, because now Riley is infected with whatever the fuck zombie STD this is. Riley starts to vomit, and he runs into the bathroom where he finds Alice's body. So to avoid that awkward conversation, Samantha just fucking bails and starts driving very fast and very erratically, upset. As she is driving home, she calls her mom in a panic, but slowly begins to pass out and crashes her car. When she wakes up, she is now gone full 100% zombie mode. As she's walking around, there's some people there looking quite freaked out. Her mom has shown up, I guess. Maybe the police called her. The police are there as well with guns pointed at her, and she starts to lunge for her mother and goes straight for the neck. And as she starts to eat her mother, the credits fucking roll. Wow. What a gross movie, huh? You know, there's some movies that I'm fine describing, but this one is always a little difficult to talk about because it's just so fucking gross. The maggots coming out during the sex, that was a little bit much for me, and that's sort of why this podcast exists, so you didn't have to see it. I did, and I'm going to need a lot of therapy for this, but you won't. So yeah, that was Contracted 2013. This movie does have a sequel that does take place immediately after this movie, and the main character is Riley. So if you're interested in that, if you want to hear what happens to the rest of this story and what might be the explanation for some of it, do feel free to let me know. Otherwise, we're just going to move right the fuck on. With all that said, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please be sure to check out WeCreeps.com in order to find all the social links if you want to support me on social media and follow me. If you want to support the podcast directly, I do have a Patreon, and this really helps me pay for all the tools and the hosting of the podcast. But hey, maybe you can't afford a monthly subscription. Why not grab a shirt from tpublic.com? Super inclusive sizes, great customer support. You can get one that says "Stay Spooky" out there. You can get one that says "We Creeps." I don't really make anything from these t-shirt sales, but you know what? It does give me a sense of satisfaction and support. Especially if you wear that t-shirt, take a picture of it, and tag one of my socials. I love showing you guys off. So if you do end up getting a shirt, be sure to tag me because I want the world to see you in it. With all that said, you guys are my world, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Don't forget to tune in next week and never forget to stay spooky out there.